Today we're speaking with Alyssa Aldrich-Hooks, and she has been fostering for how many years now? A lot.
Almost 8 years.
8 years. I cannot believe it. Alyssa started with SWAG as a volunteer and coming from the community, and she was volunteering and had a crazy way about how she became a foster parent. And I'm so proud to say that she stepped up and showed out just in time because we had a teenager in the agency, and while she was volunteering in our foster store, and we had the teenager there, and she needed respite for the night.
Mm.
And she stayed so many nights at Alyssa's. So Alyssa raised her from age 14 to even now because she still makes trips back to East Texas, where the child is from. And we are just so excited because Alyssa spent a lot of time not just loving on that teenager, and began as a foster parent wanting an infant. And I know many of you out there have a very similar story. Your infant came in as a teenager,
Mm.
and then you got to experience an infant. So, Alyssa, talk to us a little bit about what encouraged you and just called you to the fostering community.
Yeah, so I had always known about foster care, just my whole life. It had always been around. I have two siblings that are adopted, not from foster care, but were adopted.
Mhm.
So adoption, foster care was always something that was kind of in my family to some extent. And somewhere along the line, I had learned that you have to be married in order to be a foster parent.
Mm.
So whenever I started volunteering with SWAG, I learned that's not correct.
Not correct.
So Nikki re-educated me, and at the time I was, working full time. I had recently purchased a house, and honestly felt like I had a little too much time on my hands, and wanted to make sure I was using my time appropriately. So I
Mhm.
started volunteering, doing some things like that. And it was really, I had said age 0 to 3. Gender didn't matter, but 0 to 3, because I thought, okay, well, I've got to get the kid to daycare while I go to work.
Mhm.
So I had a 14-year-old. So she came on I want to say it was like a Thursday, Friday night for respite. And then I was actually going out of the country on Monday. So she stayed for respite for a couple of nights. And then on Monday, I told Nikki that, okay, I'll, when I come back, if she still needs a place, then she can stay with me. And she, moved out 5+ years later.
Yes, you returned to the country and she returned to your home.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh.
And you went through all those high school years with her.
Yep. Mhm. All of
And
high school, graduation, dual credits. Wow.
yes.
Working pals. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that shift of no children at home, haven't been a mother before, and now having to go into just full zone of mothering.
Yeah. So true. I did have a niece who I had done some parenting for.
Mhm.
But she at the time would have been 2, 3-ish, somewhere in
Mhm.
there. So yeah, definitely different on the age gap wise. Um, and I think the deal is for me is I just wanted to parent any kid
Mhm.
how I would want to have been parented.
Nice.
So I was very participative in all kinds of extracurricular activities. We did everything.
Everything, band
We
trips.
did, yeah, school trips. We actually had passports, and we were going out of the country, and that was when COVID happened. So
Oh.
we didn't actually get to go, but on any kind of opportunities, I wanted to be able to provide, kind of the as close to, similar background that I had, opportunities that I had, and just things that a child coming from foster care may not have experienced in the past. And sometimes that's just as simple as structure. And, every day we get up and go to school, go to work, and every weekend, maybe all we do is chores around the house, and just stay at home. But just kind of that consistency and structure, and how to pay bills. I'll never forget. She had lived with me for maybe a month, if even that. And I actually got pulled over for a speeding ticket. And she about lost her mind because she thought that I was going to be arrested. So she was in the passenger seat, absolutely freaking out. And I'm just like, well, this ticket is going to suck. But other than that, I mean, I'm not worried about it.
Mhm.
Just walking through different scenarios like that, and teaching life skills, opening a bank account, getting your first job, learning to write a resume, things that you have to know to function in life.
Right. And actually, Alyssa, those are a lot of things that we take for granted.
They are.
We really do. We take for granted just because it's normal.
Right.
And you actually presented that normalcy to her. And I recall all the late nights of you going back and forth to the school. I recall all the driving lessons
Yeah.
that she had and the support that you had. So talk to us a little bit about that support. How important is it that if I'm listening to the podcast today and I'm thinking about fostering, should I tell my family? Should I tell my friends about it?
I think you have to know within your heart and your mind what you want to do,
Mhm.
and kind of have that solidified before you get a lot of input from other people. Sometimes the additional input is not helpful. Sometimes what you can hear is, oh my gosh, I can never do that. That's so hard. I can never have someone else's kid in my home. I couldn't watch them leave, and you hear kind of the I couldn't.
Right.
So, and I'm not saying it's joyful to watch a child leave your home. That's not the joy, but the joy comes whenever you know that you've provided them with a home and a stable environment, and the different needs that they have had since they've been there, and you've been able to do that for them. What was the rest of the question?
No, that was good. It's just simply I wanted you to talk about what should I go tell my friends and family that I'm actually thinking about adoption. And what I hear from you is I just need to use discernment. I need to see, first of all, make sure this is something that God is truly calling me to do. Pray
Right.
to God about it. And then just seek his guidance on who I tell because I'm going to hear a lot. And that's just like life.
Yeah.
That's life. Anything that happens, if I say that, oh, I'm feeling bad here, people are going to tell me all their horror stories
Right.
about their illness. So we can look at it the same way. But when did you and how did you tell your family that you were thinking about fostering? And from what I hear in your family, it's not going to be, such a far-fetched idea because your family had fostered before, but how did your family take you wanting to be a foster parent?
Just to clarify, my family had actually never fostered before. We had just been around the system,
Okay.
and known a lot of people.
So just adopted.
They had directly adopted. So like you said, I mean, I did lots of praying, lots of, is this feasible? How would this work? What schedule would work best for me? What's the kind of quote unquote ideal age range, which we know how that worked out. And, I did a lot of that on my own. I actually did not ask input in any family's suggestions on whether I should do it or not, until you have to have a couple of references. So when it came to my references, I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess I better let y'all know. So I let them know that I was going to be pursuing it, and then needed their assistance with getting some references. And then eventually they signed up to be respite providers.
Okay.
But as far as friends go, I was 26, I believe, whenever I started this journey. So I was on the younger end of kind of single foster parents that I at least had awareness of. And there was pretty limited people in my friend group who even had kids at the time. So I chose not to tell anyone. So when my big kid came to the home that weekend, we went to church. So we showed up at church together, and that was everybody's first introduction that I was even fostering or even had anyone in my home.
And
Wow.
that's amazing here. And I say that because I know that your family is very, very involved in your fostering journey. So I know your mom and dad are both there. Your siblings, when they come to town, they're there. They're very supportive of you. And I just recall your friends, once they saw you with your foster child, then they were very active. They wanted, to be involved. And that came from them watching you,
Yeah. I
with
had a
a
couple of
child.
friends who signed up to be foster parents themselves. I had a couple of people who signed up to be respite. Yeah.
Mhm. So, and I know that you had a lot of good times with, all of your foster children. How many have you fostered at this point?
I was trying to count that number on the way. I think we're at between 25 and 27.
Wow.
Yes, that's a lot. And within 8 years, that's a
Right.
lot.
And several of those were long-term placements,
Mhm.
multiple years, for several of those.
Right. And just talk to us about those long-term placements, if you don't mind, because those are where those challenges came in.
Right.
We know we have challenges. We hear about behavior. We hear about visitations, where the children go and visit their bio family and then come back. Some want to come back, some don't want to come back. Just issues with school and the children getting acclimated. I know we have to find daycare. Just talk to us about some of those challenges right now.
Yeah. So with my big kid, she came from about 2.5, 2-ish hours away. So initially, a couple weeks in, she was, parental visits were being arranged. And it was complicated, how to get her over there to visit her family. How are we going to maintain contact? And CPS was working with us, and she had a great CPS worker at that time. And so some arrangements were made where we ended up meeting halfway for some visits. Well, at the end of the day, that resulted in her being pretty discombobulated for the day,
Mhm.
and just really upsetting. And then it also took almost the entire day, and most of the time the entire day, out of her school schedule,
Mhm.
which just really wasn't gonna work for her life. She needed to be in school, and she needed to be in her extracurriculars that she was in. And so we just got creative, and we ended up arranging that I ended up driving out there to her hometown. Um, and we would go to the park for hours. I mean, 4 or 5 hours. We would pack up our lunches, for everyone. We always went to Walmart beforehand and had food for everybody. And then whoever in her family was able to come to the park that day
Awesome.
was able to see her, hang out with her, play with her. Sometimes, if you're doing a standard CPS visit, I mean, they're meeting in a, really sterile room in a building, and, what teenager wants to do that? What are you even going to talk
Mhm.
about? What are we going to do? So, I mean, we got creative, in order to enable her to have that family connection. And then
Mhm.
as she got older, we had some social media connections and phone calls and things like that.
Right.
Um, for my younger kids, and I've had four and under pretty much.
Mhm.
So pretty much all daycare age. The challenges are similar but different. A lot of times their visits were facilitated with CPS. And CPS would oftentimes pick them up from daycare and then return them to daycare. But sometimes the children were just upset.
Mhm.
Number one, we're kids, we thrive on schedules, and we're off of our schedule.
Right.
So some random stranger picked me up from my daycare, took me to a random building. Then I saw my mom, and then now this stranger is taking me away, dropping me off at daycare, and
Mhm.
I now you're picking me up. What's even happening in my life? So that's kind of the things. And if you're two, one, you really can't even try to
Right.
talk and rationalize
Mm-hmm.
about that. So there's just a lot of support and just love and care and hugging and loving and sitting
Yeah.
on the couch that you can do at that time. Just to kind of let them know that, I'm sorry, I don't know, what's going to happen here, but I still love you. I'm going to love you for every day that you're here. And, I'm sorry your heart is hurting right now.
Right.
Mm.
Um,
And I love, Alyssa, that you speak about how some strategies that we need to put in place for children who are having visitations that day. And it's very important that we know, no matter what age they are, because sometimes we just take it, we just think, oh, well, they're one, they're two. They don't know anything, or they're just whining on this day.
they
But
definitely don't.
you said sit down on the couch with them,
Mhm.
give them extra hugs, give them that extra love on those days because they're confused,
They're
and
confused.
and you can read that in their spirits.
Yes.
So I love how you love on them and you give them that extra, even if they can't voice it.
Yes.
So and you did speak that most of your babies that you've had have been at daycare age for
Correct.
under, except for your older infant that we
Yes.
would call her. So with that, even having those long terms that you had that was in your home for a while, did you ever get to the point that were you ever interested, or are you interested in adopting? Well, talk to us about that.
Sure. So my stance from day one is if a child needed to be adopted,
Mhm.
that I'd be happy to do it. There were several in my home that I thought were going to be adoptable or move towards adoption or
Mhm.
and that has not happened yet.
Mm.
I still have one in my home who knows what will happen. I will say with that is you definitely cannot you can't plan for the future as far as if this picture looks XYZ and here's what my life's going to look like
Mhm.
and map it all out. It just is not going to work that way. And the best thing that I have found is, I mean, the goal of foster care is family reunification.
Right.
And so the best thing that I've found is, you love the kids hard. You provide the absolute best home
Mhm.
that you can for them. And at the same time, you tell yourself that they can leave tomorrow. You know,
Mhm.
today may
That's
be our
right.
last day. If today's our last day together, how can I make it the best day that you've had together? Um,
Yes, yes.
That's a
yeah.
really
And
powerful perspective. I've,
mhm.
that was always something when I considered fostering or not with my husband. It was like, how do you get through those days? And I think what's so right about what you're saying is that there is no expectation of another day or another week. It's just taking it one moment at a time. And how often does God tell us to do that? Just in general, like in life, you're just given what you need for today. It's just for today. Your mercies and his graces for today. And then he'll restore you and bring it what you need for the next day and the next day. It's the same thing. It's, I will just bring this child what they need today and not worry about what's coming later. They just need me right now, being present.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely not it's not something that you can map out for sure.
Mm.
As much as I would love to plan what my future is going to look like, you just can't. And that doesn't mean that we don't shed tears.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah.
Um, we can definitely trust God and know that, even though it doesn't seem right, feel right, God is in control. And I'm still sad about it.
Yeah.
Right,
And so, yeah,
right.
we
And
have to allow room for that.
yes, and then he's still going to love you through that sadness.
Yes.
And you're going to still continue to love those that he sent to you.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that you don't think about those five that
Yeah.
have, left, who you could have, or maybe at some point it was adoption was mentioned,
Mhm.
but it just wasn't what God, had in place at that moment.
Yeah.
So if if you could talk to any foster parents considering fostering at this time, maybe they're just at the point that maybe they have children and their children are older and they would like to now adopt, or maybe they can't have children and want to adopt. What is some advice that you can give them about just making that decision at this point?
I'm I would encourage anyone to do adoption, and to do foster care and adoption if possible, but to do foster care. I mean, um it's an experience that you will learn so much from. But it's an experience that will grow and stretch you. It's what I tell myself also is the whatever kind of hurt, pain, sadness that I experience from doing foster care and from kind of having that child loss in a way is nowhere near what the child is experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
And they can't process through their feelings. They don't know what they're feeling. They don't know what's going on. Sometimes you can't even tell them what's going on. But they just know something is off, something's wrong. Even for infants that have been removed within 2 and 3 days of birth.
Right.
I mean, they've had an entire in utero experience that you have no idea how, were they talked to? Did they get sung songs in the middle of the night? Just anything. So, I mean, I would encourage anyone to do foster care. And there's a lot of supports that can be found out there if you want to. Podcasts such as this. A lot of churches have community supports. There's
Yes.
lots of online Facebook groups. There's lots of things that you can get involved with to ask questions. And if you need to start off small and start volunteering with an organization like SWAG or starting off as a respite provider, and then even building yourself up to that, maybe you're not ready to jump all the way in,
Right.
but kind of dipping your foot in and exploring that option. I think it's great.
That's great. Thank you, Alyssa. Now let's talk about you were 26, you were single,
Yeah.
you started fostering, now you have a teenager. Did you have a life?
Somewhere in there, I found a husband. So I
That's
guess.
all right. In 8 years, so now you have a husband, you found a husband,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
you have one child of
I
your
do.
own now, and you're pregnant with your second child.
I am.
You did all that by fostering, because some people actually believe now once they start fostering, they have to give up everything else. Life is over.
No, I mean, I would say there wasn't really anything that I gave up. I mean, to be fair, my kids joined me for anything that I did. So any events that I went to, I mean, everybody knew that my kids came with me.
Right.
I hate putting my kids in daycare. But at the same time, when I started being a single mom by choice, I, have to pay the bills. So, but outside of them going to daycare during work hours, I really had them with me all the time. And I think that it's good for a parent perspective, but I think it's good for the kids to also see what the parents are doing, and kind of get involved themselves. But yeah, I wouldn't say it slowed me down at all. I mean, there were times that obviously, foster care was more consuming than other times. But yeah, found a husband.
Right. That's fostering now.
And
And the reason why is because he was able to see you with your foster children.
he wanted to get
as well.
married.
Yes.
So
He wanted to get married, and you were already fostering, and he joined you in that journey as well.
So whenever we first met, I had 2 children in my home. And whenever we were actually I had 3. I had 3 children in my home. And then whenever we got married, I had 1 child still in my home. And then about 4 months into marriage, we added a second foster child.
Okay, so the myth about not being able to foster if you're single is only a myth. The myth about not being able to get married if you're fostering, that's only a myth.
Yeah.
So Alyssa have taught us today that you can be single, you can be young.
Yeah.
You can also get married while fostering and get pregnant while fostering. So you've had a lot of milestones. You met a lot of milestones, a lot of changes in your own life throughout this time. Did you ever stop fostering for a while, or did you continue the whole time? And is that an option when a person foster? Can they stop fostering while to get married and then start again?
Yeah. So I never stopped fostering because at that time I had a long-term placement in my home, and I wanted her to stay in the home. So I never stopped fostering, but I did request a hold on new placements.
Okay.
So there was a period of time, probably 6 months, if I had to guess, where we didn't receive any placements. And then after the children that were in the home had went back to their biological families, there was a period after my biological baby was born. When my biological baby was born, I had one foster in the home, and he was there for about till she was about 6 weeks old. So from about her being 6 weeks to about 6 months, we took a pause on new placements. And then she was 6 months old, and we got another placement.
Okay, so being on this journey, you've been able to kind of predict, I'm not going to use the word predict because that's wrong. Throughout this journey, you've been able to facilitate how you wanted to foster and when you wanted to foster and who you wanted to foster.
Yeah. Yeah, you can honestly specify. I personally don't recommend a lot of specifications. I say leave it up to God, because He will bring the child into your home that you need in your home. Like I said, I wanted a 0 to 3-year-old, and I ended up with a 14-year-old, and I would not change it for anything in the world. But I wouldn't specify gender. I wouldn't specify ethnicity. I would not make those specifications. Because you don't want to pass up on a blessing that God has for you because you're, being too picky about something.
Right. But you do have the option as a foster parent, where a lot of myths are out there that they're just going to drop a baby off at your door one day and this is who you foster. But in foster, we're dealing with the foster care systems and child placement agency. You can say what type of child you want, what all the way down from gender to race to age. And you can even specify behaviors.
Yeah.
So just pray about what's best for you and let God tell you that. And just know that foster care, you do have options as well. And there are many different ways you can assist with children in foster care. And like Alyssa shared with us today, the biggest thing is that you make a cherishable impression no matter what. If you have them one day, 5 days, or 5 years, however long you have the child, just make sure that you're loving on that child as if that's the last day you're going to have an opportunity to love on that child. And thank you for that advice, Alyssa. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, we definitely appreciate speaking with you today. Is there anything that you can think about that we haven't asked or we haven't talked about that you would like to share with those that's listening?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think that not putting too many parameters on foster care would be my recommendation. Just let God kind of work in your heart on it. Pray about doing foster care, and then pray about what those stipulations are. I mean, I think it's been quite fun to integrate my home with foster kids. And I've gotten a ton of joy out of it. And then I also might be the crazy person with a 3 or 4 person stroller, but I also think it's easier to have multiple kids at the same age at the same time, because you're walking through, everybody's got to learn to walk right now, everybody, and you don't have all the kids at all different stages of life. So in my personal opinion, I like to have them all right at the same age. So, I mean, I'll have 3 under 17 months. And I think it's great.
And God bless you. God bless you. So great. And we've talked a lot about how you've seen God work through your journey. And we know that you started with God through your journey. Think about just one thing you can share with us before we leave of how he's shown up and you've seen him just, you've experienced so much, and it was no doubt that it was him when it happened. Some remarkable thing that occurred with a foster child.
Sure. I mean, I just think with let's just use my big kid, for example. There were definitely days that I wondered, like, okay, God, is this really what you wanted me to do? Because this is really hard.
Mhm.
This is really uncomfortable. This is really like just there's a lot of things that are going on here. My big kid had some medical concerns going on with everything else in life. So we had, I mean, hundreds of doctor's appointments.
Wow.
Um, and I'm like, okay, God, am I the best person for the job? And I think it was just time after time that God really just, in small ways, I can't tell you any specific big
Mhm.
thing, but it was just small things that would occur. It's like, okay, I know I'm supposed to do this. And I will say, I told my daughter on day one, I said that you are not going to make me leave you.
Mhm.
If you leave me, then that's okay. But I am not going to leave you. And there was plenty of days that she tried her absolute best. She tried her best to make me give up a placement. And that's another thing, Nikki. If it does come down to it, foster
Right.
parents can say that they need to
True.
give up a placement.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
always a thing. And she knew that. She was old enough, she knew that. And she thought that as how bad can I be that if I'm bad
Right.
enough, I'll get to go back
Oh.
home because they won't want me. And I told her from the beginning, I was like, you're not gonna get rid of me. And she has not gotten rid of me.
Now, still to this day, he can't get rid of you. And that's great. And you continue to love on her and the other children that's brought into your home. And now you get to love on your own that we're so excited about. So thank you for saying yes to fostering. Thank you personally saying yes to respite that night.
Yeah.
Okay, because we needed it and that weekend. And as we see, she did wait for you
Yes.
to get back. So we're glad you got that week break before you started this 8-year journey. So thank you. And we do appreciate you speaking with us here today and sharing your story.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.